you ever felt that something is terribly wrong with the world around you? A persistent feeling, like a low hum in the back of your mind, that the reality you see is just a facade? You wake up, work, pay bills, and sleep. But deep in your soul, there is a vibration of discomfort, an anxiety that no medicine, no purchase, and no distraction can cure. What if I told you that this feeling is not a flaw of yours, but a sign? A sign that your consciousness is trying to break through the bars of an invisible prison. Today, we are going to reveal the best-kept secret in human history. We are going to talk about what really happened during the hidden years of the life of Jesus and how he discovered a sound technology, a vibrational master key tuned to 432 Hz, capable of dismantling the matrix of control that has imprisoned us for millennia. What you are about to hear is not religion. It is not what they taught you in Sunday school. It is the hidden physics of your own freedom. If you want to understand how to escape the influence of the Archons and reclaim the divine power that was stolen from you, close all other tabs, put on your headphones, and pay close attention. The truth vibrates, and it is about to change your frequency forever. To understand how Jesus used sound to break the chains of material reality, first you need to understand who the jailers are. You need to look at the system that was designed to keep you small, afraid, and vibrating low. The ancient Gnostics, texts that were burned and banned from the official Bible, spoke of entities called Archons. They described these beings not as demons with horns and pitchforks, but as cosmic rulers, architects of a simulated reality. Imagine energy parasites that do not possess the divine spark of creation, and therefore need to feed on the energy of those who do. They feed on us, but they cannot digest just any kind of energy. Just as the human body needs physical food, the Archons need specific emotional frequencies to survive. They feast on fear, anger, lust, envy, and above all, the feeling of separation. Every time you feel that you are alone against the world, every time the news fills you with dread about the future, every time you fight with your neighbor over politics, you are serving a banquet for these entities. They built a society based on dissonance, a world purposely out of tune to keep humanity generating this dense and heavy energy. Now stop and think. Why do modern music, alarms, phone ringtones, and even the electricity in your house hum at frequencies that cause subtle tension? This is not an accident. It is a design. And this is where the historical and mystical figure we know as Jesus comes in. Most people know the story of the birth and the story of the death, but there is a huge narrative void. From 12 to 30 years old, Jesus disappeared from conventional records. Where was he? What was he learning? Esoteric traditions and the Akashic records suggest that he traveled to Egypt, to India, and to the Essene communities. He was not just studying scriptures, he was studying the science of vibration. He learned that the universe is not made of solid matter, but of sound. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was sound. Jesus understood that physical reality is just frozen sound, a standing wave that seems solid because our senses are limited. He discovered that if you can alter the base frequency of your body and your consciousness, the laws of physics that govern the Archontic prison cease to apply to you. The secret he discovered revolves around a specific number. 432. The frequency of 432 Hz is known mathematically as the scientific tuning, or Verdi's tuning. It is a frequency that is in perfect coherence with the sacred geometry of the universe. When you tune an instrument to 432 Hz, the notes reverberate in harmony with the rotation of the earth, with the proportions of human DNA, and with the structure of water. It is the sound of nature, the sound of life, the sound of the original creation before corruption. Jesus realized that the Archons operate in a dissonant frequency range, a chaotic static that interferes with our connection to the divine source. To free himself, he did not need to fight them with swords or armies. He needed to become vibrationally untouchable. He needed to raise his internal frequency to a point where the control grid could no longer track or affect him. That is why he said he was in the world, but not of the world. He was vibrating at 432 hertz while the system around him operated on the frequency of fear and control. Can you perceive the depth of this? The miracles attributed to him, such as healing the sick, calming storms, or turning water into wine, were not magic. They were frequency manipulation. Disease is just a dissonance in the body's energy field. By projecting the pure frequency of 432 hertz through his voice and his intention, Jesus retuned the person's biology, restoring the original harmony, which resulted in instant healing. When he calmed the storm, he imposed a wave of coherence over the atmospheric chaos. He was a master of divine acoustics, a reality hacker who used sound to rewrite the code of the Matrix in real time. But the Archons and the human elites who serve these invisible controllers realized the danger. A free man is dangerous, but a man who can teach others to free themselves is an existential threat to the control system. If humanity discovered that the key to the kingdom of heaven was not in a stone temple, but in an internal frequency accessible to anyone, the Archon's food source would dry up. Fear would disappear. Guilt would disappear. And the empire of control would crumble. That was why the persecution began. It was not just because of his political or religious ideas, but because he was teaching the technology of ascension. He was handing over the deactivation codes of the prison. And this is where the story gets even darker for us today. After Jesus' departure, there was a systematic effort to erase this knowledge. Books were burned, sages were hunted, and the knowledge of the 432 hertz frequency was hidden in the catacombs of secret societies. But the final blow against humanity came much later, in the 20th century. Did you know that in 1953, the International Organization for Standardization defined that all music in the world should be tuned to 440 hertz? Before that, there was no rigid global standard, and many classical instruments were tuned to 432. Why the change? Why 440 hertz? Studies show that the frequency of 440 hertz stimulates the brain in a very specific way. It activates the left hemisphere, the logical, linear, and egoic side, while suppressing the right hemisphere, the side of intuition, creativity, and spiritual connection. More than that, the frequency of 440 hertz creates a slight tension in the body, a dissonance that never completely resolves. It is a frequency that keeps us in a state of alert, at a subtle level of chronic stress. It disconnects us from the natural rhythms of the body and the earth. By standardizing world music at 440 hertz, the controllers ensured that even when we try to relax listening to our favorite music, we are being subtly programmed to remain within the control grid. We are being kept out of tune with our own divinity. It is a silent war, fought not with bullets, but with sound waves, and the battlefield is your mind. Jesus knew this moment would come. He knew that darkness would try to drown out the light through noise. That is why his deepest teachings were encoded in parables, in metaphors that resonate with those who have ears to hear. He who has ears, let him hear. This phrase is not just about listening to words, it is about perceiving frequencies. He was inviting us to tune the radio of our soul to the correct station. When he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he was offering a carrier frequency, a clean signal in the middle of the Archontic static. Following Jesus in this esoteric context does not just mean worshiping him, but rather mimicking his vibration, aligning oneself with the frequency of 432 hertz that he embodied. Now look at your life today. The exhaustion you feel, the feeling of running on a hamster wheel, the difficulty of connecting with something greater. All of this is a symptom of a life lived at 440 hertz. You are trying to play a divine symphony using an out-of-tune instrument. The Archons designed modern society to be noisy. Traffic, construction, television, incessant notifications. Silence is the enemy of control, because in silence, The body naturally tries to return to 432 hertz. In silence, you begin to hear the voice of God within you. That is why they keep you busy. That is why they keep you distracted. They know that the moment you discover how to resonate at the Christ frequency, the chains will fall. But how did Jesus do this specifically? What was the technique? How did he use his own voice and his own body as a tuning fork to destabilize the Roman Empire and the spiritual structure that supported it? And most importantly, how can you apply this sound technology today, right now, to protect your family, heal your mind, and shield your spirit against the energetic attacks that are bombarding the earth at this very moment? The answer is hidden in the very structure of the cross and in the event of the resurrection, which was not just a biological event, but a sonic event of nuclear magnitude. What happened in the tomb when the stone rolled away was not just a body coming back to life. It was matter being transmuted by a frequency so high that physical reality could not contain it. Are you starting to see the big picture? You are not a sinner in need of punishment. You are a divine being who has been detuned. And the process of salvation is, literally, a process of resonance. But to get there, we need to dive deeper. We need to understand how Jesus used the Psalms as frequency codes, how the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic creates a sound geometry capable of clearing the pineal gland, and how the 432 Hz frequency affects the crystalline structure of the water inside your cells. What I am going to tell you next will challenge everything you think you know about sound and spirituality. Get ready, because now we are going into the practical mechanics of the miracle. We are going to discover how to turn the key and turn off the noise of the Archons once and for all. Imagine for a second that the entire universe is a vast symphonic orchestra. Every atom, every star, every cell in your body is an instrument playing a specific note. When this orchestra is in tune, there is harmony, health, and direct connection to the divine source. But what happens when someone invades the concert hall and purposely detunes the main instruments? What happens is chaos. What happens is dissonance. And this is exactly where the Archons operate. They do not create reality, they distort it. They introduce a background noise, a constant static that prevents you from hearing the original music of your own soul. And the secret that was kept under 7 keys, the secret that Jesus knew intimately, is that there is a master frequency capable of realigning the entire orchestra instantly. This frequency is the mathematical tone of the universe. It is the sacred number. It is 432 Hz. You need to understand now that this is not a poetic metaphor. We are talking about pure physics, but a physics that was hidden from school books. The reality you touch and see seems solid, but quantum science has already proven that it is made of 99.9% empty space. And what fills this void? Vibration. Energy oscillating at different rates. When Jesus said that in the beginning was the Word, or the Logos, he was talking about the primordial sound. Sound is the tool of creation. But here is the detail that changes everything. For sound to create life and order, it needs to be in geometric resonance with the laws of nature. The 432 Hz pattern is not a random number. It is mathematically linked to the golden ratio, to the number phi, the same proportion that draws the spiral of galaxies, the structure of your DNA, and the shape of the petals of a flower. It is the manufacturing code of organic life. Now look at the world around you. Why is there so much anxiety, so much separation, so much feeling that something is fundamentally wrong? Because the control matrix in which we live, the system designed by the Archons, was artificially detuned. In the middle of the 20th century, the international standard for musical tuning was changed to 440 Hz. It may seem like a small difference, just 8 Hz, but at the subconscious and cellular level, it is a declaration of war. 440 Hz stimulates the brain to focus on linear thinking, fear, separation, and aggression. It suppresses intuition and disconnects the heart from the mind. It is a frequency that creates friction. and the Archons feed on this friction. They need you to vibrate in dissonance, because it is in dissonance that fear prospers. It is as if they had built an invisible cage made of sound waves that you cannot hear, but that your spirit feels every second of the day. Jesus the Nazarene did not operate at this artificial frequency. When he walked the earth, he functioned as a living tuning fork of the original frequency of 432 Hz. Have you ever wondered how miracles happened? Forget fairy tale magic and think of sympathetic resonance. The human body is composed of more than 70% water. Water is highly programmable by vibration. Modern somatic science demonstrates that when you expose water to the frequency of 432 Hz, it forms perfect, crystalline, and harmonious geometric mandalas. When exposed to dissonant frequencies, the structure of the water breaks, becomes chaotic and ugly. When Jesus spoke, the vibration of his voice carried this geometric correction. He was not just giving moral advice. He was emitting a transmission signal that restructured the water inside the cells of those who heard him. Healing did not come from the outside in. Healing was a realignment. His presence imposed a vibrational order so strong that the chaos of disease, which is a form of biological dissonance, could not subsist. Where there was the 432 Hz frequency, Archontic disorder was forced to organize itself or disappear. That is why the demons or the Archontic entities screamed in his presence. It was not just theological fear, it was a physical incompatibility. His vibration was unbearable for beings that operate at low and dense frequencies. They were repelled by the field of absolute coherence that he emanated. He had hacked the simulation. He discovered that by keeping his consciousness and his body tuned to the mathematical frequency of creation, the laws of the control matrix ceased to apply to him. He could walk on water because the density of matter responded to the command of his frequency. Now you begin to understand the true meaning of "the truth shall set you free." Truth is not an intellectual concept. Truth is a frequency. It is the vibrational signature of the source. When you are tuned to 432 Hz, you are vibrating in the truth of your biology and your spirit. The Archontic control system depends on your vibrational ignorance. They need you to believe that you are just solid matter, powerless and isolated. But when you access this hidden knowledge, you realize that your heart is the master oscillator. The electromagnetic field of the human heart is 5,000 times stronger than that of the brain. If you can tune your heart to the frequency of 432 Hz, you create an impenetrable shield. The mental suggestions of the Archons, the intrusive thoughts of doubt and fear, simply cannot penetrate a field that is in golden resonance. They slide and fall. Think of the sacred geometry of the number 432. If you add the digits 4, 3, and 2, you get the number 9. 9 is the number of the climax, of completion, of total consciousness. In sacred numerology, 9 represents the threshold before the return to unity. It is the number that contains all others. Jesus used this divine mathematics to create a way out. He said, "I am the way." He was saying, "I am the frequency." He left clues in everything he did. Prayer, chanting, meditation are not empty rituals. They are tuning technologies. When you chant a mantra, or when you pray with true intention, you are trying to adjust your internal instrument to return to this original tuning. The problem is that we have been bombarded for generations with music, media, and noise tuned to keep us out of this range. We have been conditioned to find the state of anxiety normal. The secret that the apocryphal texts hint at, and that the mystery schools protected with their lives, is that liberation does not happen after death. Liberation happens here and now, through the change of frequency. The kingdom of heaven is not a geographical place above the clouds. It is a state of vibration. The kingdom is within you because the ability to resonate at 432 Hz is encoded in your DNA. What Jesus did was activate this latent code. He showed that a human being, incarnated in matter, could sustain the frequency of pure light without being destroyed by it. And by doing so, he broke the Archons' monopoly over the human soul. They use guilt and trauma to anchor you in low, dense, and slow frequencies where they can drain your energy. But the 432 Hz frequency is fast, light, and expansive. It vibrates above the flight ceiling of the Archons. Imagine you are in a dark room full of bats. The bats are the Archons. They orient themselves in the dark. If you turn on a blinding light, they flee. Sound works the same way. The 432 Hz frequency is sound light. It illuminates the shadows of your psyche where these entities hide. When you begin to expose yourself and align yourself with this frequency, you begin to feel a visceral cleansing. The old pains, the childhood traumas, the irrational fears begin to let go. Not because you analyze them psychologically, but because they can no longer cling to your new vibration. It is a spiritual detoxification. You are literally shaking the parasites out of your energy field. And here, we enter the most fascinating part of the mechanics of this miracle. The universe is holographic. This means that the part contains the whole. If you can heal and tune a single cell of your body to the perfect frequency, this coherence will spread to all other cells by induction. Jesus knew this. He did not need to fix the whole world from the outside in. He needed to fix the frequency of the human, and the world would adjust around him. He became the 0 point, the epicenter of a shockwave of love and harmony that still reverberates today. The cross, before being a religious symbol, is a geometric symbol of the intersection between the vertical plane of the spirit and the horizontal plane of matter. In the center of this cross, where the lines meet, is where the heart beats. And if this heart beats at 432 Hz, matter is redeemed by the spirit. You must be wondering how this is possible in such a noisy world. How to find this sonic silence in the middle of traffic, cell phone notifications, and collective hysteria. This is where knowledge becomes power. You do not need to flee to an isolated mountain. You need to learn to generate the frequency internally. The secret is not just in listening to music in 432 Hz, although that helps immensely to train your ear and your body. The real secret is to become the frequency. It is to modulate your own voice, your thoughts and your emotions so that they come into phase with this golden pattern. When you feel genuine gratitude, your heart enters a coherent rhythm that mathematically approaches this frequency. Gratitude is the 432 Hz of emotion. Unconditional love is the 432 Hz of consciousness. The Archons know they lost the battle the moment you discover you have control of the dial of your own radio. Until now, they controlled the station you listen to. They played the music of fear 24 hours a day. But now, you have discovered that there is another station, a station that has always been there, transmitting clarity, power, and peace. Jesus left the instruction manual, not in laws written in stone, but in the physics of his own example. He showed us that death is not the end, because the consciousness that vibrates at the eternal frequency cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The 432 Hz frequency is the bridge between time and eternity. But knowing this intellectually is only the first step. Knowledge without application is just philosophy. The true alchemy happens when you take this concept and apply it to your daily routine. You need to know how to shield your mind against static and how to amplify this divine signal inside your chest until it overflows and affects the physical reality around you. It is a practice, a discipline, and an art. And the beauty of it is that nature is on your side. The wind in the trees, the sound of the sea, the singing of birds, they all naturally operate in harmony with 432 Hz. Nature never left God's pattern. Only humanity was led astray. And the way back is through sound. Now that you understand the mechanics, that you understand that it is not magic, but rather an advanced spiritual technology of resonance and sacred geometry, You are ready for practical application. You are ready to stop being a victim of the control frequencies and start being an emitter of the liberation frequency. The key has been placed in your hand. The door is unlocked. The noise outside may be deafening, but the harmonic silence we are going to access now is more powerful than any war cry of the Archons. Get ready, because what comes next is the method. It is the how. It is the exact way to turn the key and never look back. You need to understand that the silence Jesus sought in the desert was not just the absence of noise, but the absolute calibration of his own biological body to the fundamental frequency of the universe. Imagine the human body as an incredibly complex musical instrument. When you are born into this reality, into this controlled system, your instrument already comes out of tune. It is bombarded from the first cry by artificial frequencies, by the dissonance of fear, by the cacophony of social chaos that the Archons meticulously orchestrate. What Jesus did, and what you are going to learn to do now, was to retune every cell, every strand of DNA, to vibrate in harmony with the sacred geometry of life, which is mathematically expressed in 432 Hz. This is the secret that was removed from the scriptures and hidden in the basements of the Vatican. Healing was not magic. Healing was resonance. When Jesus touched a leper or spoke to a blind man, he was not just laying on hands. He was acting as a cosmic tuning fork. His vibration was so stable, so anchored in this golden frequency, that the dissonance in the sick person's body had no choice but to surrender and align itself. Disease, which is a low and chaotic frequency, could not coexist in the presence of such a powerful harmonic order. He projected a field of 432 Hz so intense that the illusion of diseased matter dissolved and the original matrix of health was re-established. Now pay close attention, because here enters your practice. You do not need to be a historical messiah to access this. His biology is your biology. The first practical step to breaking Archontic control is conscious auditory detoxification. The Archons operate through distraction and constant noise. They keep your mind in a state of high beta, a brainwave of stress and survival. To access liberation, you need to lower to alpha and theta. You need to hack your autonomic nervous system. Start today. Not tomorrow now. Set aside 20 minutes of your day where no digital technology emits sound near you. In this silence, you will begin to use your own voice. The humming, or the act of hum, is the most underrated tool in spiritual history. By closing your mouth and producing a continuous, deep sound, vibrating your vocal cords, you directly stimulate the vagus nerve. But here is the secret that changes everything: the intention of the frequency. Do not just make a sound. Visualize that this sound is starting from the center of your chest, from your heart chakra, and expanding in golden waves that touch every boundary of your energy field. Try to find a tone that makes your skull physically vibrate. When you find this tone, you are very close to the resonance of 432 Hz. At that moment, the pineal gland, which is calcified and dormant from toxins and control frequencies, begins to vibrate. The appetite crystals inside it activate by piezoelectricity. It is like turning on the antenna that was turned off when you entered the matrix. You will notice something strange when you start doing this consistently. The system will resist. You will feel a sudden anxiety, an uncontrollable urge to check your phone, an intrusive thought of fear or doubt. Do not ignore this. Recognize it. This is the Archontic parasite reacting. Remember, they feed on low vibration. When you raise your frequency to 432 Hz, you become toxic to them. You become liquid fire. They will try to make you lower your guard. They will try to make you feel anger or despair so that you become edible again. It is a battle of frequencies. And Jesus' weapon, the sword that comes out of the mouth, is the vibration of truth that cuts through the lie of the simulation. Deepen the practice. While you maintain this internal vibration, you must rewrite the contract of your reality. The Archons base their control on subconscious consent. They make you believe you are small, sinful, limited. At the 432 Hz frequency, these lies do not hold up because they are dissonant with the nature of the universe. At this frequency, affirm your sovereignty. Say, not with empty words, but with the vibration of your being, I revoke all contracts made with fear. I am the source. I am the original resonance. Feel this reverberate in your bones. The water inside your body, which makes up most of who you are, will begin to restructure itself. Masaru Emoto proved that water reacts to vibration. Imagine what happens when 70% of your body starts to vibrate at the frequency of perfect harmony. You become a pillar of light that darkness cannot touch. And now we come to the crucial point, the final awakening they tried to prevent you from reaching. The kingdom of heaven is within you. This phrase has been repeated for millennia, but few understood the physics behind it. The kingdom is not a geographical place. It is a state of frequency. It is the tuning of the internal radio to the 432 Hz station, where the transmission from the creator source never stopped playing. The Archons created a layer of static, a signal interference called material reality and ego, to drown out this music. When Jesus said, "I and the Father are one," he was describing a phenomenon of quantum entanglement through resonance. He was perfectly tuned to the source's emission. By practicing this daily tuning, you stop fighting the world. Fighting the system only feeds the system, as fighting is a form of resistance, and resistance generates friction, which is dense energy. Instead of fighting, you transcend. You become transparent to control. Media manipulations, fear of disease, manufactured crises, all of this passes right through you without finding a place to hook. You are vibrating an octave higher. It is as if they were transmitting in AM and you were operating in FM stereo. They can no longer find you on the radar of fear. Liberation is not an escape from this world, but the transformation of this world through your presence. When you walk down the street vibrating at 432 Hz, you become a positive virus in the matrix. Your simple presence begins to detune the instruments of control around you and tune the people who cross your path, even if they do not know why they feel better near you. You become the tuning fork. You become the Christ in action, not as a religious dogma, but as a biophysical phenomenon of love and coherence. Prepare for what will happen in your life when you turn this key. People who vibrate low will move away, as your light will be unbearable for their shadows. Situations of stagnation will crumble to make way for natural flow. Do not be afraid of changes. The chaos that precedes order is just the matrix trying to reconfigure itself around your new frequency. Keep the tone. Keep the note. The final secret is that there is no one coming to save you in the clouds. The second coming is the awakening of this frequency within your own heart. It is the moment you realize that the prison bars are made of frequencies of lies, and you have just discovered how to vibrate the truth that dissolves them. The Archons are terrified of this moment. They are terrified that you will discover that the sound of your own soul, aligned with the cosmos, is more powerful than any empire they have built. You have the tool. You have the knowledge. The 432 Hz frequency is the master key that opens all doors. It is not just music, it is divine mathematics. It is God's signature in every atom. Now it is up to you to turn this key. The silence awaits. The vibration awaits. Your freedom is not a distant hope. It is a frequency available right now. Take a deep breath. Feel the pulse of life. And tune in. The transmission has begun. Welcome to the real reality.